Hi, ewilson. How you doing?
Yeah,
That's the Great Joy Daily up in here? Oh, shit.
heard a lot about you.
Go in, Joy, go in. Oh, man. That's always a good start.
Joy,
I see why you keep over there. Okay, I see.
Yeah, in the corner here.
I had to get somebody that know what they doing up here.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, so ewilson in the building.
Yo, Slayer, off mic convos is real, man.
Yeah. Hey, yo, Will C.
Yes, sir.
The camera's off, right? You just put it back on, right?
The camera's on.
Huh?
It could be on.
Jack may shut it off?
Hey, man.
No. I'm saying off air is off air.
Oh, off air is off air, but sometimes I do record off air.
Yeah,
but I'll clear it with you.
Not telling me.
That's the case. That's the case. Slay heat against the street heat.
Yeah,
right
let me shut the time when I want to start some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, not you.
Now we've been messing with each other long enough, Slade. I know better not to push it out.
Don't worry about it. You're all right, bro.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
ewilson is
Yes, sir. K Slay. What's up, baby? Yeah, YouTube.com/JZ Life and Times. Please subscribe. I did about 3 of them now. I'm taping another one tomorrow morning. Leave comments. Let me know what you want me to touch on. I might tackle the whole idea about with Kendrick's album, like in the new generation, like his album's really dope and conceptual and real strong top to bottom. But it's like people are so quick nowadays in the new generation to call something a classic. You know what I mean? It's just like classics take time, but then you also have to predict if something is a classic. So I might tackle that subject about what makes something a classic. Because nowadays, everybody love Nas's album. It's like, this is a classic. It's like, but wait, hold up. To me, a classic is undisputed. You know what I mean? It takes time, but I feel like I'm gonna have to tackle that subject about hip hop classics, and you know what I mean?
I think 5 years determines a classic.
Yeah.
If it's time, let's say 5 years go by, and you still want to hear that whole album, or you lose it, so you go buy it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. You cop that shit over and over.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's that kind of determines.
I think it has to be undisputed, Ready to Die, Reasonable Doubt, Chronic. Some things are undisputed. If you can't argue against it, then it has to be undisputed, because that's the thing. And then you have your personal classics that you rock with. You may be War Report is my shit. I don't know if it's fully in that same class, even though I do love it. You know what I mean? In terms of like you said, Wu-Tang's first album, Reasonable Doubt, Illmatic, Chronic. Why you drop? Really, that's why you dropping it though. Those all serious classic shit.
Sometimes we got.
When you talk about classic rap, you gotta drop all the music down and shit. You know what I mean?
Well, what's the last classic album that you've heard?
You know what's funny? It's I think he might have to give it to 50 with the Get Rich. And you know what's funny? When I was at XXL Get Rich, and we hated 21 Questions, so we didn't want to give him a double XL. We had a big long ass meeting. We was like, yo, that shit is not hot. Nate, but it's it's not about that. It's he had I think also to me about a classic is that it has to have cultural impact. 50 was the man, and he delivered that album at that time. So even though there may be 1 or 2 songs that you don't really rock with, it's still strong and cohesive overall. And then you have some records that are Common will put an album with Kanye, and it's this flawless, pure album, but it doesn't have that cultural impact. So it's you can say something's a 5-star album, and I can't find nothing wrong with it, but that doesn't necessarily make it a classic either, because it has to have the cultural impact the way 50 did with Get Rich. So I think that Get Rich does have that, and we made a mistake, and I think the Source used to do that too. They didn't want to give Chronic 5 mics; they would give it 4.5. Okay. Or Raekwon Cuban Link, they give it 4.5, because they didn't want to give it that 5. They did it with Illmatic, and they caught a lot of heat. So it's a hard call. I gave Life After Death 5 mics when I was at the Source, and that's right after Biggie died, and I felt like that album changed the landscape. But then you have people that love Ready to Die and felt like Life After Death was too commercial, so it's not as good as Ready to Die. Now we look back on it, they're both classics. But I got letters saying, get off dead niggas' dicks, shit like that, disrespectful shits, because people didn't want to give up right away and say something's a classic. But, back with journalism, you have to make that prediction, but like you said, only time justifies it. 5 years, blah, blah, but you have to make those projections, and I think kids should make that projections, but I think now the new generation's in a rush to make something theirs to add to the legacy. You know what I mean? To add on to that. And even 50, I feel like 50's still trying to recapture that magic moment that he had. You know what I mean? So you always want to have those great moments, and the kids love great moments, so they overhype things now because they want it to add on to that legacy. They want it next to Wu-Tang and Biggie and Nas and everything that,
they can't
came before it.
That.
Yeah.
We have to let them know.
Yeah.
There is a chamber you have to go through, young that still exists. You know what I'm saying?
But I do think if Get Rich is like the last, like, because we know what that cultural impact was like. That was like beyond, and it's and that's deeper than just like, again, like this album is flawless and you listen to it. Like obviously a great album is first like you could throw it on and you don't gotta skip around, you could just ride out to it. But then it has to have that cultural impact too. It has to like change the game. And like, Wu-Tang changed the game, Mobb Deep, Nas, like those type of artists, Pac, those type of records.
So here's a question that you might catch some heat on. You don't feel from the time 50 Cent was out there hasn't been a South artist that dropped a classic album?
I made the argument. I felt in some ways. I think Jeezy, the first TM 101 doesn't get its due as a classic in some ways.
Okay.
I think you can even make the argument that Flockavelli's a classic in some sense. You know what I mean? I said that once and everybody was all mad, but it's like Waka with that cultural impact of those records and like those 4 big singles. Like again, like sometimes like it may not be top to bottom is solid, but also here's the thing too. Like sometimes people have albums that like Kendrick, I feel like it's a great overall body of work and you appreciate it more in the context. But to me, what makes something more of a classic is that it has that overall feel, but then there are standalone records too. Like right now with Nas, you could throw Locomotive, Bye Baby, those Queen Story, like those records on their own are powerful. And then in the context, it's also great. So I think that sometimes is the argument. Like it could be a great cohesive work, but do they have standout tracks? Like are those individual tracks also different? Like Wu-Tang would enter the Wu-Tang, but then Cream is its own monster. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with is its own monster. Yeah. And then you have the whole overall. So I think that's really the determinant. But yeah, the South is always never judged that way. I think T.I.'s has some classic albums. I think, Jeezy TM 101 was undisputed. I think even Waka in terms of cultural impact, but we do sometimes don't want to judge it that way, but they definitely put that work in.
What about any female artists drop any classics that you could name?
Well, you always think of Lauryn Hill. Yeah. That's why Wyclef's crazy because it's like
that was way back.
No, because like no, people love like Fugees and the Score, but like Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, that's still a cultural standard. Like and like you said, but I think Lauryn was the greatest. She is the greatest female rapper, even though she also did sing. I love MC Lyte. I love, Shantae. I love Latifah. I don't know if they put together a full album that warrants that same type of thing. Salt and Pepper also, you know what I mean? But Lauryn, for that moment, was able to capture that. Even though it wasn't straight rapping, like maybe like 3 or 4 songs she purely rapped. It was mostly singing. It still had that. The same way Outkast records with Andre singing. Yeah. Like, our culture stretches that way. It doesn't necessarily have to be bars on bars on bars. Like, if it's great music, it's great music.
Universal, yes. Universal.
But I think we still live in that cloud of Lauryn Hill with that album, and that's why, it stopped a lot. Nicki's done her thing, but Nicki hasn't done a classic album, though.
But what's crazy that I just had a new brother up here, 20 years old, from Houston, and I asked him his top 3 rappers of all time. Listen to Mel. He said Eminem, Lauryn Hill, and Jay-Z. And I said, yo, but like, you're a dude. And I've never heard, and there was no disrespect. I said, no, but I've never heard a male put Lauryn Hill or any female as their top 3.
But I remember though, like in that era though, like I was at the Source during Lauryn's thing. Is like Lauryn was the first female rapper that we felt like that dudes was giving it up. That she's nice as an MC, not just nice as a female MC, but she's nice overall. Like the intricacies of her wordplay and all that type of shit. So I feel like it died down, but it's funny that this kid's going back and still being that way. But like I felt like in that period of the late '90s, early 2000s, she was getting those props from the male group. Yeah, like that. Because she knew her potential was there. And it's almost like with Andre 3000, she was such a genius that she wasn't necessarily rhyming on every song, but you knew her 16s, whatever she was going to come with, is vicious. I think even Drake does that now. Like Drake decided, like, I'm going to do my singing shit, I'm going to make these melodies, start make hit records, but you see him murdering all these guest features. It's like, don't doubt me as a rapper because I'm going to murder these guest features. Like, I'm going to do, my music is this, but if you throw me on a record with anybody, I'm gonna tear it down. Yeah, I'm gonna get at him with that 16 that like everybody in the club's like Drake murdered that joint. And that's to me when he made Take Care, he decided to go that way with it. And that's a lot more power,
888 Shade 45 Street Sweeper Radio. We got the legendary ewilson in the building.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna play some music. We're gonna be right back. Shade 45. Don't forget we got Carmel Candy up here. We got Destiny Moore. We're gonna talk to them. Don't nowhere. Keep it locked. Shade 45.